You're listening to the Ordinary Vegan Podcast, where we teach you everything you need to know about adopting a plant-based diet full or part-time. Our goal is to empower you to live a long and healthy life. You can find today's show at ordinaryvegan.net or on iTunes. If you have any questions, please send an email to questions@ordinaryvegan.net.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Ordinary Vegan Podcast. My name is Nancy Montori, and this is my new labor of love and third podcast episode. Today's podcast explores the connection between diet and common types of mental health problems, including anxiety disorder, ADD, depression, ADHD, and general phobia. But before I get started, I want to take a minute to thank all of you again for your support. Every share, every like, every review means so much to me and helps me spread the plant-based message. If you are listening to the Ordinary Vegan Podcast for the first time, I advocate a plant-based diet for health and wellness. It's a diet based on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes like beans and lentils, and healthy fats like nuts, seeds, and avocado. A plant-based diet is not only the best choice for a long and healthy life, it is also the best choice for a healthy planet, and a way to protect animals who have been bred into existence to suffer on factory farms. If you're just getting started on a plant-based diet full or part-time, I recommend you listen to Ordinary Vegan's podcast number 1, Getting Started on a Vegan Diet. Let's begin this podcast with the question of the week. A young man named Tama reached out to me all the way from a village outside of Lusaka, Zambia, South Africa. I hope I pronounced that right. That's why I love this new medium of podcasting. Somehow this podcast found its way into someone's ear all the way from South Africa. I'm so grateful for that. At any rate, Tama wanted to know if it's true that vitamin B12 is only available in animal protein. Sama went on to say that he is vegan and lives in a village that subsists largely on organic food that he grows. Thanks for the question, Tama, and congratulations on your vegan diet. Vitamin B12 is the most common topic I get asked about from those who are interested in a plant-based diet. It is true that vitamin B12 is found in animal foods, and it is true plants do not contain vitamin B12. However, animals do not have the ability to manufacture vitamin B12. Animals get the bacteria by eating stuff like animal poop, animal-sourced foods, and regurgitated cud. The interesting thing about vitamin B12 is that humans were getting B12 for hundreds of years from dirt. They were eating plants that still had bits of soil on them. However, today we are so much more sterile and wash our fruits and vegetables so well that we no longer consume dirt and that dose of B12. So what is B12? B12 is a water-soluble vitamin that plays an important role in synthesizing DNA, forming blood cells, and maintaining proper brain and neurological functioning. When you consume a plant-based diet, the best way to get vitamin B12 is through fortified foods like rice, non-dairy beverages, or cereal that have been fortified with B12. My favorite way to get B12 every day is to eat a tablespoon or 2 of B12 fortified nutritional yeast. It's an easy and delicious way to consume B12. If you have never tried nutritional yeast before, I will explain what it is. Nutritional yeast is a deactivated yeast that is sold in the form of flakes or yellow powder. Deactivated means it's a yeast that is no longer living. It is different from the yeast you use in baking and can't cause dough or bread to ferment or rise. Nutritional yeast is very popular with vegans and vegetarians as a condiment and is commonly used as an ingredient in recipes. It's available in most grocery stores and natural food stores. It also tastes delicious. I use it in soups and stews or stir it into pasta instead of Parmesan cheese. I also add it to mashed potatoes or use it as a seasoning for sautéed greens. You can pretty much shake it in or on anything, much like salt. But it doesn't contain a lot of sodium, which is much healthier. One of the most popular uses of nutritional yeast for vegans is to sprinkle it on freshly popped popcorn for a cheesy taste. On the nutrient side, nutritional yeast is considered a complete protein and contains B-complex vitamins and iron, and it's free of sugar and gluten. Please make sure when you purchase nutritional yeast that it has been fortified, because not all nutritional yeast brands have been fortified with B12. So I personally consider nutritional yeast the healthiest source of B12 in a vegan diet. Another good source of vitamin B12 can be a supplement. Whatever you decide to do, you should always have a blood test a few months after you go on a plant-based diet to check your vitamin B12 and vitamin D. You have to specifically ask your doctor to check your B12 levels in your blood test, because most doctors don't check B12 on routine blood tests. I have been on a vegan diet for close to 5 years, and my vitamin B12 and vitamin D levels have always been perfect without using a B12 or D vitamin supplement. Hope that answered your question, Tama, and thanks for reaching out all the way from South Africa. Now, let's get to today's podcast subject about improving your mental health with nutrition. In March of 2015, I attended the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise for a week of island hopping, yoga, delicious vegan food, and fantastic, eye-opening lectures. I will tell you more about that cruise at the end of this podcast. At any rate, one of those lectures was by physician and author Dr. Michael Greger. Dr. Greger specializes in nutrition and the connection between food and disease. At the very end of his lecture, he brought up the connection between mental illness and diet. He didn't elaborate too much, but I left that lecture wanting to know more. I know I am not alone in saying that mental illness has had an impact on my family. Mental illness refers to a broad range of categories that include depression, bipolar disease, addiction, anxiety disorders, and schizophrenia. According to many studies, there is now an epidemic of mental illness with over 450 million people globally suffering from some form of the disease. Most are treated with pharmaceutical drugs and therapy. But drugs and therapy aren't the only answer. Food can be your first line of defense against mental illness. Studies are now showing that unhealthy gut inflammation can cause depression along with other brain ailments. Here is why. Brain health depends on gut health. Bacteria, along with viruses and fungi, are called microbes, and we are filled with them. Microbes are single-cell organisms that are so tiny that millions can fit into the eye of a needle. They live everywhere in our body, including our intestines. Together, they form our body's unique collection of microbes. Because of the sheer number of them, they have a significant impact on health. Good microbes can help prevent all kinds of disease. Bad microbes can create gut inflammation. The gut microbes can make a difference as to whether we are sick or well mentally. The right gut bacteria also helps on a hormonal level. For example, adrenaline and cortisol play a large role in anxiety, phobias, and panic attacks. The right gut bacteria supports the hormonal level by helping to turn off the cortisol and adrenaline response. Gut inflammation can also create nutrient deficiencies, which can lead to aggression, especially when there is a copper and zinc imbalance. Scientists are now exploring the gut inflammation's potential role in autism, and forward-thinking doctors are recommending a gut-friendly, gluten-free, casein-free diet for children with autism. Gut inflammation can also create a long list of stomach disorders, including digestive issues such as gas, bloating, irritable bowel syndrome. Kurt Cobain, lead singer of Nirvana, who publicly spoke of his depression, also suffered from chronic stomach pain his entire life. Other ailments include allergies, asthma, and autoimmune diseases such as psoriasis, celiac disease, and lupus. Skin issues like acne, rosacea, and eczema are also connected to gut inflammation. All of this data is showing us that the gut is critical not only to our mental health, but to our entire well-being. To have a healthy gut, one must avoid eating foods that foster the growth of unhealthy gut bacteria and eat foods that improve gut bacteria. Let's break down the most important nutrients you need for a healthy gut. Those nutrients are called manganese, sulfur, folate, and iron, and they play a vital role in mental health. Let's first talk about the mineral manganese, which helps alleviate anxiety and assists in regulating blood sugar levels. Manganese is found in so many healthy, nutrient-rich plant-based foods like garbanzo beans, broccoli, kale, spinach, pineapple, ground flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, sweet potatoes, and pumpkin seeds. If you suffer from any kind of anxiety, I highly recommend starting your day with a couple of tablespoons of ground flax, chia, or hemp seeds every morning. You can sprinkle them on oatmeal, salads, stir fries, or I love to sprinkle them on top of toast smeared with peanut butter. I also recommend carrying roasted pumpkin seeds in your car or purse so they are always available to snack on or when you're hungry or when you're having some anxiety. If you're home and need a anxiety-fighting snack, roast a sweet potato and drizzle it with maple syrup, or smear some bread or fruit with almond butter and sprinkle it with chia seeds. There are numerous easy ways to incorporate this brain-rich mineral into your diet. In addition to helping with anxiety, manganese can also improve your sex life because it promotes the production of sex hormones, just in case you needed more incentive. I want to add, always get your manganese through plant-based food and not manganese supplements. We will talk more about vitamin supplements in an upcoming podcast, but the best way to get your minerals and vitamins in the natural way is with whole plant-based foods. The next essential mineral for healthy brain function is iron. Iron is an important part of red blood cells that carry oxygen throughout your body. Without healthy blood cells, your body can't get enough oxygen. Iron deficiency can lead to anemia, which can cause fatigue and impair mental functioning. Iron deficiency can also lead to permanent brain damage. Iron is abundant in a plant-based diet. Think lentils, spinach, chickpeas, beans, quinoa, dried fruit, nuts, seeds, and tofu. Did you know spinach contains more iron than meat? It is not at all difficult to get all the iron you need from a plant-based diet. The next mineral is sulfur. Sulfur-rich vegetables nourish the powerhouse cells in the gut and also help heal the gut lining. Those foods include cruciferous vegetables, kale, turnips, bok choy, red peppers, asparagus, walnuts, and ground flax seeds. The last thing is folate. Folate-rich foods help keep you sharp and focused and lowers your odds of getting dementia later in life. Folate-rich foods include leafy greens, asparagus, peas, beans, carrots, lentils, avocados, vegetables, and beets. Nuts and seeds are also folate-rich and boost your mood. Last but not least, cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli. While we're on the subject of cruciferous vegetables, let's make one of Ordinary Vegan's most popular plant-based, mineral-rich recipes. It's called cauliflower fried rice with carrots and green peas. Here's what you need, and this recipe serves 4. Ingredients: 1 head of cauliflower, a half a cup of brown rice, a half a cup of frozen peas, thawed or fresh, a half a cup of frozen organic corn, thawed or fresh, 1 small white onion chopped, 2 cloves of garlic chopped, 1 Fresno chili chopped, that's optional, I always like to have a little heat, 2 to 3 tablespoons of soy sauce or more to taste, a 1/4 cup of vegetable broth for sautéing, and a couple of drops of sesame oil, salt and pepper to taste. Here's what you do. Rinse the brown rice. Bring 1 cup of water to a boil, add the rice and simmer for approximately 15 to 20 minutes or until the water is absorbed and the rice is cooked. Keep a careful eye on it so it doesn't stick. While the rice is cooking, remove the outer leaves of the cauliflower. Soak and rinse the cauliflower, then drain it and dry. Grate the head of cauliflower over the coarse side of a large grater. This should yield about 2.5 cups of rice-like cauliflower. Now, heat the vegetable broth in a large sauté pan. Add the onions and Fresno chili and cook for about 3 minutes or until the onion is soft and translucent. Add the garlic and cook for another 1 to 2 minutes. Add more vegetable broth if it's sticking. Next, add the riced cauliflower, soy sauce, and sesame oil to the sauté pan and cook for approximately 3 minutes. Add the cooked brown rice, corn, peas, and cook for another 2 to 3 minutes. Taste, then add your salt and pepper, and serve it with a folate-rich leafy green like spinach. That's it. This recipe is simple to prepare, delicious to eat, and mineral-rich. You can find this recipe at ordinaryvegan.net/cauliflower rice. Hope you enjoy it. Now back to gut health. We have talked about the ways to heal your gut. Now let's talk about foods that wreak havoc on your gut. A Harvard University study says eating a diet packed with meat and cheese alters the trillions of microbes living in the gut. Researchers found that within 2 days of consuming an animal-based diet, microbes found in the food itself quickly colonized the gut and promoted inflammation. These inflammation-causing microbes are linked to all kinds of serious chronic diseases, including cancer, heart disease, and mental illness. The scientists also discovered a noted behavior change when volunteers switched from a meat and cheese diet to a fiber-rich plant-based diet. They discovered a plant-based diet had a positive effect on mood and disposition. So why does meat and dairy cause inflammation in the gut? Let's start with L-carnitine. L-carnitine is a compound abundant in red meat. Eating red meat delivers L-carnitine to bacteria that live in the gut. The problem isn't carnitine per se, but rather what happens to it when it interacts with bacteria in the colon. Microbes turn L-carnitine into a compound called TMAO. TMAO kills good bacteria in the gut, which is why a high intake of red meat causes gut bacteria. Dairy also alters gut bacteria. Casein, the main ingredient in dairy products, has been linked to negative effects in children with ADD, ADHD, and autism. One of the reasons is that an unhealthy gut doesn't have all the necessary enzymes necessary to digest the proteins in casein. Milk and cheese also have high amounts of saturated fats. Fatty foods reduce bacterial populations, which can promote DNA damage and cancer growth. But that is not the only reason to remove casein from your diet. I know I bring this up every podcast, but it is so important to keep repeating. Dr. T. Colin Campbell, author of the most relevant book on nutrition called The China Study, called casein the most relevant cancer promoter found in the last 50 years. Now, let's talk about sugar. Sugar also feeds the bad bacteria in our guts and causes an imbalance in the bacterial composition. High fructose corn syrup is the worst, and it's present in most junk foods, soft drinks, juices, syrups, jellies, breakfast cereals, and even sports drinks. Check the labels carefully, but sometimes that isn't even enough. Unfortunately, some corporations have renamed high fructose corn syrup to deceive the consumer. Corn sugar is now one of those deceptive names. If the food is processed, it probably contains some kind of processed sugar that is not healthy for your gut. Also, most refined sugar is not vegan. In order to make sugar white, sugar companies use bone char to filter the sugar. Bone char is made from animals they import from all over the world. Most people don't know that. If you would like to see a list of bone char-free vegan sugar companies, go to ordinaryvegan.net/vegan sugar. The last thing I want to mention are GMOs. GMOs are plants or animals that have undergone a process where scientists alter their genes with DNA from different species of living organisms, bacteria, or viruses to get desired traits, such as resistance to disease, or the main goal, for a tolerance of pesticides. Plain and simple, our bodies are not designed to digest GMOs. GMO food was designed to withstand a herbicide called Roundup and the active ingredient in Roundup called glyphosate. Eating glyphosate-laced foods can lead to imbalances in gut bacteria, inflammation, leaky gut, and food allergies such as gluten intolerance. You can avoid GMO foods by avoiding all processed foods and only eating organic. I know I've shared a lot of information today and it can seem overwhelming. But if you can improve your mental health, mood, and energy with food, why not try it? Mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. It's a disease and possibly can be helped with the right food. We are what we eat, and sometimes we suffer needlessly and unknowingly because of our diet. Well, that's podcast number 3. I am very passionate about changing the way you look at food, and I hope I'm doing a good job. If you have any questions or feedback at all, I want to hear it. Send me an email at questions@ordinaryvegan.net, or you can also record a live question or message to me on my website, ordinaryvegan.net. Just hit the black record button, and I will include your questions in my upcoming podcasts. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please give it a rating or comment on it in iTunes. The more reviews it gets, the more prominently it gets featured on iTunes. Please join our fun and vibrant community on Facebook at Facebook/OrdinaryVegan. We are about 250,000 strong, and our community members love to help and support each other. You can find all the information we spoke about today in this week's show notes at ordinaryvegan.net. Yes, I also mentioned the Holistic Holiday at Sea earlier in my podcast. I went last year and loved every minute of it. This year, I am teaching a plant-based cooking class. If you want to know more about the cruise, go to holisticholidayatsea.com. If you sign up, don't forget to mention Ordinary Vegan for an on-board credit. Thanks to my announcer, voice extraordinaire Rick Savage, Doug Barnes for the great sound, and Kevin McPherson for the music. And thanks to all of you for listening to this podcast. One last thing. For the millions of people out there who are suffering from a mental illness, you are not alone. And it is possible to cope with and recover from the grips of mental illness with the right nutrition, counseling, and medication. Reach out for help and never feel ashamed. Till next time.
Thanks for joining our plant-based community today. Together, we can accomplish great things. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of Ordinary Vegan's recipes and plant-based tips. If you have any questions or feedback, email us at questions@ordinaryvegan.net. Until next time.